We're super fortunate to start out with a big bang in the region. And so far, we've set up our entity and our headquarters in Singapore. And after that, we've gone and I follow a playbook that I've done for several companies. I built Indonesia next as being the fourth largest country and the largest contributor of the ASEAN countries. So we've set up Indonesia as well. And then proceeding after that, we've also jumped into a market which we believe is going to be very successful and untapped, which is Korea. Think about building a region. We always think about the addressable market and how we can help the clients overcome the types of challenges they're dealing with, specifically in the data space. So the good news is that a lot of the engineers are very excited to work with Graph because they know it's the next thing that's out there in the data space. And so we have a lot of people that have either been educated in it or very interested in becoming educated in it. Looking at things from a relationship perspective is much more conducive to solving their business problems. Singapore was recently ranked being outside Silicon Valley. It's pretty much the next best tech center. So the fight for talent is very hard, and being able to articulate why they would come into a very exciting industry with a very exciting company to do some amazing work. They can contribute to many customers. That's what engineers usually love to do. I like the recent quote from one of Singapore's ministers where he says Singapore is the connection and the gateway between India and China. And that's really how we see it. We see tech centers in both locations and R&D in both locations. We also look at how we're going to be doing this with programmatically through universities. And what we do with universities is very important because they bring the curriculum out to educate the folks that will then come into the market. And as they come into the market, they are skilling and upskilling the workforce. So it's an exciting time to be doing that. The company is funded by one of the most exciting and most innovative investors that engineers love, and that's SoftBank's Vision AI Fund. And people want to work with companies that they know have funded other companies like Grab, Caro, recently in Singapore, Ola, Paytm. They want to work with good companies that have exciting investors that have a vision and that have fleshed out why this technology is going to be disruptive. We also have an innovation center that we just set up at University of California, San Diego. We set that up with Dr. Jay Yu. He recently joined the company. He joined from a customer. The customer is called Intuit. They're one of the largest financial software companies in the world. And from his perspective, when he was at Intuit, he built out use cases around customer 360, hyper-personalization, identity graph, and fraud analytics. And so it's really nice when a customer believes enough in the company to actually join. And not only are they doing that, but they're going to lead our innovation center. I see one of the top things is the financial services sector, the fintech sector, the sector with everything going on with digital banking and all of the new folks that have gotten digital banking licenses. And that is a market there that is, we can help them a lot with a lot of their obstacles. And that is how they do micro lending or BNPL, how they do buy now, pay later. Is how do you attract people to come to your bank as opposed to the other ones? Graph is position. Graph is the underpinning data structure for this. We are able to connect all the different data sources, all the siloed data sources, and get into very deep analytics. Deep analytics is a way that you're able to understand enough information to know should you be lending to this person, or what is the limit that you should lend to this person. Traditional databases and even first generation graph databases cannot do that. TigerGraph was built on a distributed platform that scales, handles a lot of data. So it's about speed and the amount of data you can handle, and then also applying AI to that. An example, Gojek, they're a customer of ours and they look at fraud analytics. They're one of the largest ride hailing service company, food service, and et cetera in ASEAN, but also the largest in Indonesia. And I just find what they're doing is super innovative. They found a way to apply Graph to detect fraud community rings, where people are literally setting up places where they're looking to do nefarious behavior, and they're preventing a lot now by using TigerGraph, and they're in production. And the only way they're able to do that was because our solution is an enterprise class product. And that's the difference between TigerGraph and first generation products, where that may be. What Graph does is allows you to look at all the relationships so you can have the unlock a lot of insights and have the best analytics for whatever use case it may be. And in the case of somebody like Australian Tax Office, you are literally spotting and detecting tax avoidance, which is a huge value statement for their government. You're finding nefarious behavior, people that may have shell companies, synthetic accounts. And the way we do that uniquely is that we're able to do this by looking into 10 to 20 connections deep. The rule of thumb is this: we find by adding Graph, you'll find at least a 5% uplift in catching fraud or detecting fraud. And that's the same with AML. Big savings there. So again, 5% uplift with catching fraud or detecting it, and 5% uplift of catching any money laundering. And then if you add visualization on top of that, so you can understand the entire data corpus in visualizing it, that's another 6%. So we believe that there's at least 11% we can catch extra across financial crimes and fraud detection and prevention and AML. There is that if you're going to be looking at large data sets, you're going to want to be covered, and you're going to want to future-proof it and do the right things and bring the right database to the right problem. And so that's what we do. We bring the right database to the right data sets and the right solutions. What I've seen mainly is it starts with a business use case. I would say that I find pretty unique about Asia, and it's actually really exciting, is that having the population across ASEAN of close to 700 million, and then also being neighbors of the two largest countries in the world, there is just a huge opportunity to move fast and to advance. And I believe the difference I usually see is that nowadays is I do believe Asia can move faster than a lot of other places in the world. And I'll see innovation happening for sure, and people will drive some very interesting use cases in companies out of the Americas. But I do see Asia as more or less leading the charge with new technology.